Well, guys, after so many bad movies, it's all come to this. Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and this is my review. This is my final epic rant of 2016. Guys, I've watched a lot of really shitty movies this year, and like I said, I wanted to end on a movie that I knew was going to be absolute shit, so I could get this worst list done, and what a movie to end with, seriously. What a movie to end with. I knew this movie was going to be bad going into it. I had no positive outlook on this movie whatsoever. I knew this was going to be shit, and it absolutely was, and that movie is none other than a Stephen King movie, so you know it's going to be great because the Stephen King movie, and that of course is none other than Cell. This movie, I was not at all looking forward to. I thought this movie looked really shit. I mean, I haven't really saw any trailers or anything, but from the reviews and things like that, I thought it sounded really shitty, and I really had no expectations for it whatsoever, and I said, okay, I'm going to make sure I watch this in my worst list, because I knew it was going to be something that was really bad. And as it turns out, Cell is awful, okay? Cell is awful. It's a terrible movie. It's cliched. It's unintentionally funny. And it's severely boring. Like, I'm talking, like, really boring. And I'm going to talk about that. But let's get to the plot of Cell, which the plot of this movie really doesn't make any sense. Honestly, it really doesn't. Essentially, we focus on John Cusack. He's on a plane to Boston trying to get home to his family, and suddenly, there's this weird signal that pulsates through all these cell phone networks worldwide, where everyone on their cell phone starts to turn into these, like, savage creatures who start making weird noises, they start dancing, they start sucking blood, they start having seizures. I mean, all this weird shit is going on, and he does what he can to survive, along with Sam Jackson and Isabelle Fuhrman, and that's the essential plot of this movie, and like I said, it really does suck. But it doesn't suck for the reasons that you may think it does, because believe it or not, the acting here, the actors do try. I will definitely give them that. The actors did try, but it's not enough to make this movie somewhat good. I mean, the actors still were pretty bad in this movie. And it's not because of their acting. These are good actors, it's just their characters in general are really flat. John Cusack's character here, John Cusack, I think, did an okay job in this movie. You can tell that he didn't really know what to do with most of it, and that's because most of his character makes really dumb decisions. I mean, there's literally a scene in this movie where someone says, "Don't touch her, she's contagious." John Cusack then leaps over her, falls on top of her, and continues to crawl through the wreckage just to get the hell out of there, and he's just making all these dumb decisions, and you don't really care about his character. He's constantly thinking that he's very gullible too. He constantly thinks that his family is calling out to him and that they're infected as well, and you just don't care. Honestly, you just don't care about John Cusack's character, and I really was feeling bad for John Cusack, because I heard that a lot of this movie he wanted to improve on, but he was completely shut out of any, like, creative control or anything like that, so that in general really does suck, and John Cusack really does not make up for it, unfortunately, and especially the direction his character goes is one of the most cliched and predictable endings I have seen all year, without a doubt. I think he tried, definitely, but it did not work. Sam Jackson, on the other hand, this is an actor that, as you guys know, even if a movie's bad, Sam Jackson, in my opinion, can propel that movie. Why is Snakes on a Plane so successful? Because of Sam Jackson. Why are certain movies, getting all of this love? Because of Sam Jackson. Sam Jackson, however, in this movie is one of the most bland, uninteresting characters I've ever seen him give. This is one of the most subdued roles from Sam Jackson. He doesn't get to have those big Sam Jackson monologues. He doesn't get to have those big moments. And it really pains me, because he's giving some incredible performances, like in The Hateful Eight, where he's one of the best characters he's ever played, in my opinion, with that incredible monologue. And then you go to him in this, and he's just so boring and so flat, and there's nothing to his character. He's just there to be the black guy. That's why he's there. He's there to crack a few jokes. He's there to say some things, but they don't really do anything with his character, and you don't at all care about the relation between these two. They want you to care about them, but you don't at all care, and I just found their relationship to be really lackluster. I didn't give a shit what was going on with their characters, and again, I found them to be really, really flat. And that's exactly the case with Isabelle Fuhrman, who randomly shows up in this movie in one of the most hilarious scenes I've ever seen, where she's overacting like crazy. And honestly, as much as I like Isabelle Fuhrman, she was terrible in this movie. She really was. I mean, I think she's a very good actress. I liked her in Orphan. I liked her in All the Wilderness. I don't know what happened here. I really don't know. I like her as an actress, and I don't think that she's a bad actress, but she was really bad in this movie. Her line delivery was really overdramatic, I have to say. I mean, every line she's like, my mom's dress. I've ruined this dress. I killed my mother. Like, she's freaking out the whole movie, and I'm like, just dial it down a few notches. I know you can be better than this, and I don't know if they told her to be more overdramatic or if it was the directors, but something about her line delivery does not work whatsoever. They try to create this father-daughter dynamic between John Cusack and Isabelle Fuhrman, and it does not work whatsoever. Again, she just seemed like she was just the third one there. She was there to be sort of like a daughter figure to John Cusack and provide heart for the movie, and it does not work whatsoever. I like her as an actress. I just want to see her do something other than this, because I know she can be a lot better, and like I said, I really don't know how this went as bad as it did, because I know she's a better actress than this. Really, every character in this movie I found to be very uninteresting. I found every actor to really be way too over the top, and I really didn't think any of them were really that great. That's nothing compared to the directing and the writing, because holy shit, this movie. I mean, this is supposed to be, as we know, a horror suspense thriller, and many times I felt like I was watching a parody of a horror film rather than a horror film. But no, you are supposed to be taking this seriously, and that's the thing that Todd Williams did horribly here. I don't know how he directed this so badly, but this comes off as ridiculous. I mean, these are not threatening the people. You know, when they get attacked on the cell phones, they're not threatening in the slightest. They're jumping around. They're making all these weird noises. They're having like seizures every 5 seconds. I mean, they're dancing, they're like prancing around. It wasn't, nothing about it was intimidating at all, and Todd Williams did a good job with directing this movie at all, because he starts it off as a fun horror film that's ridiculous, it's something on like the Sci-Fi Channel, and then tries to make it this slow character story about survival. And just like the previous two movies I reviewed, these two things do not go together at all, and it's something that this director just did not understand. I think that the movie went in a completely different direction than it should have. I think he should have just kept it to be silly, because I would have liked it if it was, I actually not liked it, but I would have actually had more enjoyment if it was silly, but it's not the whole movie. It's not a silly movie. It gets really serious very fast and very boring, and that really has to do with the screenplay, which, let's get into the screenplay, because this is one of the worst constructed screenplays I have seen all year, without a doubt. I mean, there's some horrible line delivery, there are just some horrible lines in general, and they really take way too much time, I think, to explain pretty much everything. And even when they explain it, you don't really make much sense of it. It's just random chit-chat, basically. And the best way to describe the screenplay in this movie, the beginning of it is a crazy manic episode of The Walking Dead, where there's tons of shit going on and there's all this zombie kills. The difference is that it's hilarious here. Instead of scary and intense, it's actually really hilarious to watch, because, again, just the way they did this is terrible. Then it turns into those slow-moving episodes, The Walking Dead, where there's not much happening and characters are focusing on survival. The difference here is that these characters are boring as shit. There's nothing interesting to them. So when they're talking, I just tuned out, honestly. I tuned out. I started doing other things. I could not focus on this movie because it was just so boring. There's this scene where they go to a diner, and there's no purpose. They're just dancing. The movie just keeps on stalling and stalling. To me, this felt like this was supposed to be a TV movie, but they couldn't cut to commercials, so they just kept adding stuff in there for more filler stuff. And this movie has tons and tons of filler, and it doesn't work whatsoever. I just found it so boring, and I honestly could not wait for it to end because of how slow the movie really got, I have to say. There's so many scenes of people just talking and talking and talking and talking, and it's not interesting at all. There's just nothing happening to these scenes. scenes, and I found it to be really, really boring after a while, especially a movie where people are getting, people are getting mutated or whatever by their cell phones, which they really don't explain how this epidemic is happening and how literally all of the nation is being affected by this. You should show more of it, and for some reason it's very sporadic after like the first 20 or something minutes. It gets very sporadic after that, and I'm not entirely sure why they went in that direction. I feel like the movie could have been a lot better if they focused on it a bit more, but for some reason they fucking didn't, and I don't really know why they didn't. It just felt really weird that they didn't want to focus more on, the stuff that's actually interesting. The cinematography, however, oh my god, the cinematography in this movie is fucking terrible. I mean, this cinematography wouldn't look good. I've seen high school productions that have better makeup than this movie does. I've seen computer programs that have better stuff. I mean, honestly, I heard people say this looks like stuff on Windows Movie Maker. I'm sure it would look better, honestly. I could see this looking better on Windows Movie Maker because they take their time with it. This looks like they didn't even try to take their time with this. I mean, nothing about them are scary. The creatures are following in this movie. You don't feel feared by them. You feel like they're just whatever. And they feel like such an afterthought. And that's the thing. It's not so much they're not just scary. They feel like an afterthought. It feels like we have these characters surviving while all of this is going on in the midst of them talking. It should be the other way around, but it's not. You would think a movie that's so focused on, in the beginning, with people, being attacked by their cell phones and things like that, and their cell phones being killer cell phones, you would think they try to do more to it, but they don't for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why. I think this could have gone really, really well if maybe they just took their time a little bit more, but they didn't. They didn't take their time. They didn't try to make them look intimidating at all, and especially the way the movie ends, which is one of the most predictable endings I have seen in so long. It makes no sense whatsoever. The way the movie ends especially just looked terrible. The score here is whatever. I don't really have much to say about the score. The editing to this movie, I think the movie honestly was way too long. I think it could have been like 70 minutes long, personally. I don't think it needed to be like 90 minutes, like I said. There's about 40 or so minutes of this movie where there's like nothing happening, and it was so boring. I'm not really sure why they went in this direction, and I really think they could have cut this movie down significantly. They did not need to make it nearly as long as it was. But now, guys, I do want to talk about the ending of this movie, because the movie is just, this ending makes no sense whatsoever. It's contrived, it's ridiculous, and I have no idea how any of it makes any sense. I mean, here's the thing with this ending. And I really don't care if you guys don't want to watch this movie. I'm sorry if I'm spoiling Cell, a movie that you probably will never watch and don't even care about. I'm sorry if I'm spoiling it, but I'm going to spoil it because I don't give a fuck about this movie, as you guys know. This ending, I think, could have worked, though. I think it could have worked if maybe they were a little bit more sporadic about some of the things going on with John Cusack throughout the movie. If maybe they would have, done more stuff with his character. But they didn't. They had him constantly just talking with Sam Jackson, interacting. I mean, here's how I think it should have gone. The second that he hugs Sam Jackson, that's when we should have known that he was infected. That's when. It should not have been before that. It should have been, it should not have been after that. It should have been right when he hugs Sam Jackson. That's when we should have known. But no, him driving through all the carnage and then him trying to get to his son. He goes to his son. Suddenly their house explodes, which I have no idea how this happens. Their house literally catches on fire in like this tornado. And then suddenly we cut to a scene with his son who's like, I'm happy you met my new friends. I'm happy you've seen them and everything. And then we cut to the very last scene where John Cusack is now one of them. Wow, I'm so shocked. I mean, the second that he crawled into that woman, I had no idea this was going to happen. I really was expecting this. I really was not expecting this at all. This is very surprising. No, it's not surprising at all. Like I said, they could have maybe done this really, really well. But again, they didn't really try to focus on it. And I don't know why. This is an interesting twist, but it's just horribly, horribly contrived. They didn't even try to really make this interesting. It just felt like such an afterthought, and just like everything else in the movie, it just felt so half-assed. Everything about this movie feels half-assed. Everything about it feels so contrived. Nothing about it feels original or interesting or even exciting. It feels silly at points. It goes from really silly to really boring very quickly. This will for sure be on my worst list, and you betcha I am definitely going to give Cell a 0.5 out of 5 or an F. God, it feels good to not have to talk about this shit anymore. Honestly, guys, I know you have been waiting for it, and my next video will for sure be my worst movies of 2016. Definitely look forward to that. Don't watch any of these movies that I'm going to talk to you about in that list. You have much better things to do with your time, but look forward to that video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.